we all know what Ghana football has become and what is, the problems it's gone through and all that, especially this particular clash and how people sort of have boycotted the game.
The atmosphere wasn't like we have known because the stadium wasn't full to capacity, but it was still a pretty decent attendance. I would say a little over half of the stadium was full. In the last few minutes of the game, Hatfield scored what they thought was the equalizer. But the flag, to be fair, the flag went up before the attacker or the striker kicked the ball.
Tottenham Hotspur would be very, very sorry for themselves after what they thought was going to be 3 points at home.
Both teams didn't necessarily perform well. It was terrible in the first half to watch. But again, I can understand. Spurs and Man United are not necessarily in the great form.
The City and Chelsea are behind Arsenal. Arsenal, who dropped points for the first time in a long while against Sunderland. And also, even more importantly for Mikel Arteta and the side, conceded their first goals in about 10 or 11 games.
But one good thing about Mikel Arteta is that this result has come at a very good time. They're going into the international break, so they can get that off their minds and come back fresher or come back with a new momentum around them.
Real Madrid, they could not score a goal against Rayo Vallecano in a game that ended 0-0. And for those who were wondering if they had their superstars, yes, they did.
Welcome to Footy Center podcast series. Welcome to Footy Center podcast series.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's match day.
Oh, we are back. This is FC Pitchside Podcast. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Theo Winyan. And as always, as we do it every weekend, we put together the very best, results and discuss them as they should. And today, I'm in a virtual room with Sicho Atrim. He's the only one joining me today. Ajoy is unfortunately not with us because of other commitments. And of course, Jonathan Mensah. I've texted you, Jonathan. When are you back? It's been since August. Sicho, tell him something. When is Jonathan back?
Jonathan, don't worry. When you come, I'm not going to be too hard on you to beat you in the game, since that's why you're running away. But look, forget about us. Forget about Thierry and I. Forget about we the boys. The listeners, the viewers are missing you. So yeah, forget about us.
Exactly.
Just come for the viewers and the listeners.
Exactly. We need you back, Jonathan. Anyway, so Sicho, how's your weekend been? What are your highlights from the weekend?
I've had a very busy weekend. I attended a wedding yesterday. A mate of mine from university got married. Afiba.
Oh, nice!
Congratulations to her. It was a beautiful wedding ceremony. Caught up with a lot of my friends I've not seen since school. Then I came back home. Had to see the games I had missed. Again, just so I'll be ready for the pod. And then today, after church, I had to go to the Accra Sports Stadium to summarize alongside Graham for Ghana's biggest fixture.
Oh,
Hatfield,
the Super Clash.
Yeah, Hatfield against Kotoko.
And
so yeah,
right. So that is definitely on.
So I go home and I had to now watch the games I had missed and watch the games live tonight, just to be ready for the pod.
No way. No way.
It's been a lovely weekend, buddy.
Yeah, but I understand it's very tight as well on you. Everybody affiliated with the show is very grateful for the effort. Anyway, we are going to be looking at the Super Clash, and definitely we are going to be looking at the foreign leagues in Europe as well, because there's still some ongoing resurgence by Manchester City, and this time it was the Premier League champions that suffered the brunt of Pep Guardiola and his charges. We'll be looking at that. Would also be talking, or better still, I'm going to be introducing a mini segment that is going to be scattered across the entire show, every episode going forward, and this is called Wear the Shirts. Now, what this is going to be is I'm going to ask the pundits, or better still, I'm going to give them clues of a player. I'm going to pick a shirt every episode. They need to let me know if they know football really well, if not that they know, of course I know they know football, but it is to know if their memory is very functional.
Mm,
I'm gonna pick a shirt, a vintage shirt, every single episode. I'll offer clues throughout the episode. At any point, anyone who gets the correct answer has won the shirt, and that is going to be the winner of wear the shirt for that particular episode. It's really going to be exciting, and like I said, it's going to be scattered. So the beginning of the show, I'm going to give a clue. I'll give two more clues, and at the end of the show, I'll give a final clue. If they don't have it, it means I get to wear the shirt, and I'm going to tell them who the player is. So every clue is supposed to guide you or point you in the right direction, and hopefully you're able to guess the player and know who it is. And so to start with today's wear the shirt game, I have already picked the shirt.
mm,
The first clue, Sicho. Today is
okay.
you and I. The first clue is this player, and again, I'm going to help you a bit because he is a player. He's a former Spurs or Arsenal player, former Tottenham Hotspur or Arsenal player. And of course, it's because the big clash next weekend is Arsenal and Tottenham. Sorry, the next match day is Arsenal and Tottenham Hotspur. And so,
So what I
in the
can
spirit
I
of
can
that
I can
game,
give the answer now, or
yeah, one. I mean,
Emmanuel
first
Adebayo.
clue: if you have
Emmanuel
the answer,
Adebayo.
you win early.
Emmanuel
You win
Adebayo.
early.
Emmanuel
But
Adebayo.
I'm not giving you the clue.
Oh, you said
I'm
Arsenal
not.
or Spurs? Arsenal and Spurs
No, no,
playing.
no, no. That is just a hint. That is me helping you. So now the clues are now about unfolding. But
But
that's a good shout.
uh,
But that's a good shout.
but that's not the player.
So the first clue.
Okay.
The first clue is this person scored 42 goals in 113 games for Tottenham. So there you go. Not an Arsenal player. Do you know who this is?
Not an Arsenal player.
Yeah, a Tottenham player. And he scored 42 goals in 113 games for Spurs. That's
Gareth Bale.
No, that is not. And so you don't have any other opportunities to answer until the second clue later on in the show. All right, so let's start then. We'll be starting locally because in Ghana, the biggest football game has always been the Super Clash, and that is between Asante Kotoko and Hearts of Oak. And it happened earlier on Sunday in Accra, with Kotoko winning by a goal to nil against the Phobians. The Porcupines, are celebrating all the way back to Kumasi. Sicho was there summarizing the game with Mr. Graham. Graham, I'm going to give you a call. I know I owe you a call. I'll make that call in case you're watching or listening to this. But yeah, I know I owe you. So Sicho, let me first of all ask about the Super Clash. You were there. What was attendance like? What was the ambience like? The atmosphere, the quality of the game? Really, your general take on the game?
Well, yeah, the atmosphere wasn't like we have known because the stadium wasn't full to capacity, but it was still a pretty decent attendance. I would say a little over half of the stadium was full. I mean, of
Okay.
course, but when it comes to
Okay.
Super Clash, you're expecting it to be fully full, and
Yeah.
and people
Yeah.
even get to stand outside hoping to get a sneak into the stadium.
Exactly. I
But
mean, that's what it was in the early 2000s and
yeah,
the
yeah,
90s
yeah,
as well. But we all know what Ghana football has become and what is, the problems has gone through and all that, especially this particular clash and how people sort of have boycotted the game for varying reasons, for all the administrative reasons against the GFA, for all the corruption reasons they have against the football, governing body, for all the issues they have with their respective clubs, because Kotoko and Hearts have not covered themselves in glory
yeah,
in the last few years. The lack of player quality, because we all saw the likes of Ishmael Ado and Emmanuel Kufuor and all the top guys play for Kotoko, Don Bote, Charles Taylor, all of those guys, and we don't have that quality. If I'm bold, I would say the last star quality that I saw in the Super Clash was Eric Bequin. Is that arguable? In 2008, 2009. Since then, we've seen flashes of brilliance from some of the guys,
yeah,
but in terms of real individual star quality, I think Eric Bequin to me will be the last guy.
yeah. I think probably is. Yeah, we've seen a couple of players step up, but the ones that will live in the minds of people. I
Yeah,
think Eric Becker could one. We've seen Felix
yeah,
Annan come through. One time was the Black
right.
Stars goalkeeper. We've seen
But I
Baba
mean,
Rahman.
with all due respect to the goalkeeping position,
Yeah, they
Felix
never
Felix
really the
Annan was really
stars.
good. He was called up to the He was called up to the national team and everything,
Yeah.
but he is not a goal scorer
Yeah.
or a dribbler that gets people off their seats.
No, you're
And
right.
usually in the local game, people are looking for things like that. I think maybe the only people who defy those odds would be Sekou Four, for example.
Yeah, yeah,
He wasn't skillful, he wasn't a goal scorer, but the general he was in midfield, everybody respected him for it.
yeah,
On the other half of this equation, Stephen Odro was also of similar quality. Um, Ahindia as well was also very good for Kotoko.
mm,
But that was that time,
yeah.
and since that time it's like very difficult to unearth any quality. We've had Banier in recent times as well, but
Yeah.
unfortunately again,
I think
right.
the last 4 seasons that both the two teams that those two teams, the two groups that those two teams had, the Bania group, the you remember Benjamin Afutu,
Yeah,
Nate,
yeah,
and
yeah.
Sabotre. Then for Kotoko, there was the um uh, uh Mudasiru, then
Modosiru,
Mudasiru
yeah.
group,
But
Fabio
you're
Gama.
mentioning really good players. You're mentioning really good players, but if we go back to the point,
Yeah.
these are not
No. I'm just saying.
household
Yeah,
names
I'm just
like
saying.
the Charles Taylors and the
Yeah,
Don
no.
Bottes.
Agreed.
People
I'm
would
just
want
saying
to storm the
those
stadium to see
players.
Don Botte.
No. No. Of
Yeah,
course, I'm just saying that those two groups. When Hatterfolk won the league and Kotoko with virtually the same team that had lost it came back
right.
to beat Hatterfolk to it. Even though the players were not the star quality players, as you mentioned,
Hmm.
it still
Hmm.
gave the league something for people to hang on to. So it might not
Yeah,
necessarily
yeah,
always
that
have
is
to
true.
be the very star quality. It's just the consistency
Right.
of players that fans can relate with, because the players I've
Hmm.
mentioned their names have been a Heartful for at least 5 years. And because of
Right.
COVID, they didn't go anywhere. Because the league was also halted because of number 12, they still stuck around. So the fans really had an affinity to these players. And we're happy to see them win the league, happy to see them play for the club. So people will go to the stadium to see them, even though they were not the Don Bortes, the Ishmaelados, the Eric Bequains. But of course, we've gone back to the same era where players are easily leaving the shores of Ghana. Think of Albert Amwa banging in goals for Kotoko. People would go to the stadium for him, but now he's had to leave
Hmm.
because the club needs money to run.
Yeah.
And these are some of the little things. But yeah, so that's putting those contexts in place is the reason why I say attendance today was decent, because knowing all the
Right.
problems the league is facing, filling half of
Yeah.
the stadium, in my opinion, with all the caveats we know is around it, was a decent, if you like, outing or decent fans attending the game.
All right. So what this means is that Kotoko have now climbed to seventh with 14 points. Hearts of Oak sitting fifth with 16 points, and these two teams are not exactly punching above their weights in the Ghana League, because the Aduana Stars are top of the pile, and I'm really happy to see Aduana there, one of the very good traditional sides, and Mediema as well, very closely behind them. Hearts of Lions are doing very well.
Yeah,
Randy Abbey, I'd agree to you.
yeah,
Anyway, let's so that will be it. But when you look at the quality on display, I mean, it was just a goal separating these two sides via penalty by Donzo.
yeah.
Was there enough? Was this like a very good attacking game, or it was a ball marginal win for Kotoko?
I think both teams were sloppy a little bit in possession. Nobody really got into a rhythm. But we saw flashes. We saw moments where it gave the fans something to shout about. And also the game was was one that, of course, it always has drama.
Right.
Because in the last few minutes of the game, Hartlepool scored what they thought was the equalizer. But the flag, to be fair, the flag went up before the
Hmm.
attacker or the striker kicked the ball. But the flag went up for offside. But the question was
Mm,
if it was the Kotoko defender who headed the ball back to the Hartlepool player who was in an offside position, or it was the
right.
Hartlepool attacker who got his head on the ball. I think the debate is still
Oh
ongoing.
my.
So I was in commentary. From the first incident, it wasn't clear. From the replay, it looked like the Kotoko defender might have been the one to have had the final touch on the ball, which would have been a back pass rather than an offside to the Hartlepool striker, Mauli Wayo. But again, the flag had gone up right after the header had gotten a whistle. Also went at the time Mauli Wayo was kicking the strike,
Mm,
so it was
right.
called for offside. Fans were not happy, but yeah, I think that is what is going to be the talking point throughout the whole week on radio and on TV.
Right. Thank you very much for that summary. So we'll go for a quick break. We'll be right back.
This is the FC Pitchside Podcast, the first in an exciting lineup of podcasts by Footy Centre. Footy Centre is where you'd read your intriguing opinions and daily stories about football. From Europe's biggest leagues, the Champions League, international matches, and for Ghanaian fans, get closer to your favorite national teams.
Welcome back here to FC Pitchside Podcast. We're discussing the Super Clash now. We'll be moving on straight to, some other conversations. But before we do
the second clue.
Yeah, before we do that, there's a second clue. The second clue is this guy scored in every round of the 2008 to 2009 Carling Cup. He is remembered for moments like scoring a late winner against Liverpool in November 2008, which was the first defeat of the season for Liverpool at the time.
Robbie Keane.
Another wrong answer, but good shout, because he was in that era as well. But this guy is someone you definitely know. I can tell you that.
Nah, man, I know what my next answer will be.
You know who your next answer is going to be. Okay, so let's wait for the next clue. And remember, if you're still watching us on YouTube, remember to subscribe and also, like and hit all the correct buttons on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts as well. I'm going to be reading a couple of the comments that came through on Spotify and YouTube very, very shortly. But let's move on straight to the English Premier League, because it's been all drama, and it started with a big one. That was Tottenham Hotspur against Manchester United. And I'll be honest with you, the first 20 minutes I was really bored. It wasn't the most entertaining game. Everybody saying, the both teams seemed too cagey. They didn't want no adventure in the game. No one threatening until the gifts that was a goal. The Tottenham defense, I don't know what they were doing, toying with Manchester United's attack, and of course they were punished by Brian Mbumo. Really a man in form, and a man who has definitely dug himself from the drudges of Manchester United's recent poor form, and he is one of the guys that's galvanizing them to one victory after the other. This time, though, it wasn't a victory. It was a second successive draw for Manchester United after the one against Nottingham Forest. This was against Spurs, and it was a late equalizer by Matthijs de Ligt. But Tottenham Hotspur would be very, very sorry for themselves after what they thought was going to be 3 points at home. Now, Sicho, you saw that game.
Yeah.
Your takes on that?
Both teams didn't necessarily perform well. It was terrible in the first half to watch. But again, I can understand. Spurs and Man United are not necessarily in a great form. They are not producing consistent performances. So these games, you are looking more at the results than the performance for the coaches. So in that first half, both teams were just trying to feel themselves and feel where the weaknesses would be. And as we mentioned, it was the moment where Man United just found something, and Spurs defense was caught napping because Brian Mbeumo didn't even have to jump or apply himself with any force to get United into the lead. But it's that kind of performance from Man United again, where having got into the lead, they don't quite know if they should risk more and get the cushion for the second goal, or they should sit in and defend. And being in no man's land in that situation, they allow Spurs to grow slightly into the game in the second half and also concede. I thought the second goal they conceded from the Richarlison goal, there wasn't really much they could have done about it, unless, apart from the fact that they perhaps should have closed in on the striker of the ball and then put pressure on the ball. But as soon as the ball goes and Richarlison deflects and it's onside, always going to be difficult for the goalkeeper to catch. But for Man United, even though they will be disappointed, it's only a point. They will take some confidence from this because it's been 2 games now that Man United look like they are losing, and they've come back to get a draw from those games. Man United a couple of weeks ago, anytime they were in a losing position, we just knew they were never going to recover. We knew they were going to lose even by bigger margins. But yeah, against Nottingham Forest, they took the lead at 1-0, went down 2-1, but still found that equalizer before the game would end. And the same repeated against Spurs. What they need to cut out now is when they're in the lead, they need to strike the balance between going for the killer for the second goal and defending what would be the equalizer. And maybe that is where they can pick their confidence, their momentum from.
Right, but what this means is that Manchester United temporarily climbed to second, but that's how crazy the Premier League table and standings is looking like right now. Because immediately the other games were played, they sunk all the way back to seventh or eighth. Again, I'm going to be confirming where the standings are for each of these teams. This message from EJ on Spotify says Ghana Network they worry. Good episode regardless, and then he was referring to last week's episode. Triple A also came
Yeah, our jaw
with
went off a couple of
fire
times.
emojis. Yes, yes, yes. So I'm sure that's what he was referring to with that. But anyway, let's continue with the conversation. And now we are going to be looking at, after Manchester United and Everton. Let's talk about Chelsea and Wolves. Yeah, let's talk about Chelsea and Wolves because West Ham United and Burnley ended 3-2 in favor of the Hammers. Everton also beating Fulham by 2-0. Fulham have been really, really terrible on the road this season. But Chelsea were able to find a win after the not embarrassing, but stunning draw result against Azerbaijan side Karabakh, who have been decent in the Champions League. Chelsea took them for granted and were punished. But this time against Wolverhampton Wanderers, even though the first half was a poor display, they came back strongly in the second half. Garnacho with a goal. Estevao also changing play in that particular. We'll talk about him in a bit. But Sicho, what are your thoughts on Chelsea? Second place, do they deserve to be there?
The table never lies. I always tell people that the league table never lies because teams are playing a similar number of games at every time of the
Right.
season, playing against similar opponents, which every team is going to face. So when you find a team at the bottom or at the top of the league, I always say it never lies because you can never be lucky throughout the entirety of the season. So yeah, Chelsea deserve to be where they are at the moment. The question would be if they have what it takes to stay there or even do better and compete for the league with Arsenal against Arsenal. And so, but back in the game, I thought in the first half Chelsea were poor.
Right.
Chelsea looked like
Yeah.
they were not too sure about what they wanted to do. Again, when you have the result they had against Karabakh,
Very pedestrian.
It can hit your confidence a little bit. But in that second 45 minutes, the manager brought on players who had a lot to prove, or players who wanted to make a claim for positions in the team. And also, I think he gave them a bit more freedom to express themselves. Estevao was brilliant when he came on. We saw Garnacho as well, playing like we think he is got in his locker, creating 2 chances or assisting twice in the process
Right.
for Pedro Neto and then Joao Pedro to get on the back of the net. And Malo Gusto, of all people, scoring his first ever Chelsea goal on the fast stick. So yeah, I think the second half was a lot better from Chelsea. And we know Chelsea have got this quality in their locker. When they want to apply themselves, they can be difficult to beat, but they have to be just a little bit more consistent when they and get rounds of game under their belts. That is where people can now really start trusting them.
Right. Okay, so that will be it with the Chelsea game. But what it means is that Chelsea will be getting into the the international break second in the table behind Arsenal. Arsenal,
No, at the
who
moment,
dropped
because
points.
City won now.
Actually, it's because City won, so
Yeah,
Chelsea are now third. We'll come to the City game.
yeah.
Actually, yeah, we'll come to the City game. But they are City and Chelsea are behind Arsenal. Arsenal, who dropped points for the first time in a long while against Sunderland, and also, even more importantly for Mikel Arteta and the side, conceded their first goals in about 10 or 11 games, and this was a 2-goal concession. So definitely it's not something that they will be happy about. But Sunderland, what a side, Situ. I wanted to start from Sunderland because what a joy they are. They took points off Chelsea taking points off Arsenal, have clawed their way into top four as a newly promoted side.
It's
That is a
remarkable.
really, really impressive run of results.
No, it's remarkable. And well, of course, Sunderland are doing something special, but I want to give credit to all the newly promoted sides because in the last four
Right.
seasons, almost all the
Hmm.
teams that got promoted quickly went back to the championship. Quickly, like it just in that same season went back to the championship.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
these three teams that have won promotion to the Premier League have just realized that surviving is important. You can't play the same way you play in the championship in the Premier League. So you might have been dominant in the championship. It doesn't mean you can translate that dominance in the Premier League. But here's the thing
Mm.
with Sunderland: the signings they made were crucial. Bertrand Traore coming in, Granit Xhaka, Premier League experience, went to the Bundesliga to win the Bundesliga with Bayer Leverkusen as a key player, and they kept some of the very good players that they had, from the Championship. I think one of the things that they did well with was how they reinvested that Joby Bellingham money. So they sold Joby Bellingham
Right.
for some good money just to make sure they were safe in financial fair play rule, and then
Yeah.
they were able to reinvest that money, bring in quality signings. And the way they've chosen to play is to respect their opponents and pick systems that allow them to be able to be competitive. Remember that in the first four games they played in the league, they had not lost a game. They had won twice, they had drawn
Hmm.
twice.
Yeah.
Then they played against Manchester United in a similar style, that 4-3-3 system. The Man United beat them to it. But in Man United beating Sunderland in that game, in that first half, they were playing a 4-3-3. As soon as they went two goals down, the manager changed something. He changed the
Yeah.
team into a back five, more or less, having wing backs, according in when they were back five, and United suffered. Even though they left it too late, that game they really looked good. From that point, whenever he's faced a team that looks more superior to him, he's trusted his team to play in that back five system, and it become incredibly difficult to crack. What he's also got is great pace in attack and very physical, powerful forward players who are able to, have the confront defenders and have that battle with them. So I think Sunderland are onto something really special here. I think they are looking and aiming at finishing in top 10 places.
I like that. I like the sound of that because they have been really, really impressive. But for Arsenal, though, is this going to shake their season? Is this going to be a turning point in the season where people now know how to play against them? Or do you think this is just, one out of, a million and their impressive defensive form continues?
No. I think it's just a one-off game. I think Arsenal, even in a very tough game against Sunderland, Arsenal almost nicked it. Almost nicked it. Gabriel's effort was blocked on the line. Goalkeeper had
Yeah.
to make a save from Calafiori, even when Arsenal had gone 2-all, which means they've still got that.
Yeah.
Arsenal's mentality is beginning to look like one of a title-winning team. They still need to prove
Right.
everybody wrong because the season is still young. But one good thing about Mikel Arteta is that this result has come at a very good time. They're going into the international break, so they can get
Hmm.
that off their minds and come back fresher or come back with a new, momentum around them. It is when you have drawn this game now and you've got a midweek game in the Premier League that people can ask all these
Yeah.
questions that, oh, okay, so in the midweek they are playing against maybe Aston Villa.
Yeah.
Can Arsenal go on and maybe get back to winning ways? And now
But
you've
you
got
mean the break gives
the
them
break,
that
gives them a
time to
breathing
reflect,
space.
to rework their
Yeah,
tactics,
yep,
come back, in full force again. And of
absolutely.
course, that is definitely going to be good news for Arsenal and their fans who have been waiting for a Premier League title for ages. And if Mikel Arteta is able to do that, maybe he just goes into Arsenal folklore as a hero and a legend of the club. It's been long coming. They've
Yeah,
tried
big
different
deal.
managers after
Yeah,
Wenger, and he will be the one to take. But it's been a long time coming, and maybe that's what should give Man United and Chelsea some hope of a bright future, because this has been 6 years of building for Arsenal to actually be the team everybody's chasing, and for teams like Pep Guardiola and Liverpool to play against Arsenal and not be able to go gung ho full attacking. It shows the respect they have for Arsenal, if not fear in a way,
yeah,
of what this Arsenal team can do. They are not just one of the strongest sides in England. I think the strongest side in England, but they are one of the strongest sides in Europe as well. And it's interesting that they'll be playing against Bayern Munich in the Champions League in the next round. So that will be two absolutely scintillating teams who
yeah,
drop points this weekend, who will
yeah,
be
yeah.
going head to head against each other. One free scoring, the other that's not letting goals. That should definitely be a very, very, very good game. Anyway, let's continue with English football, because the next stop for us is going to be at Manchester, the city of Manchester, because that is where they played against Liverpool and won by 3 goals to nil. Jeremy Doku, what a performance and what a goal to cap it off. Haaland missing a penalty in the first half, but still getting, a goal via the header. And, Manchester City running away 3-0 winners against Liverpool, who would be scratching their heads to find answers because a lot has to be answered about what's happening at Liverpool. But if they read, to me though, I think Anslot and his boys do not need to beat themselves up too much. They have been able to win back-to-back games before Manchester City. Man City are still a very, very good side. If you lose to them, there's no shame in that. I think they don't need to beat themselves up too much. Pick themselves up after the international break and come back and continue whatever good things they were doing, because that is the only way they go. If they look too hard at this result and want to correct too many things, want to shift too many things, it might be going back to 3-4 weeks ago when they were losing games for fun. I feel this was a defeat, but it was not, excuse me to say, a defeat against a smaller club. This was a defeat against a very, very good Manchester City side who are also resurging and have played very good football in the last few weeks. Sicho, I don't know what you think.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can understand what you say, but for Liverpool, a team that has won the league, that are hoping to maybe put in a better challenge, it still will be disappointing, even though it's a defeat to Man City. And again, it's the man of the defeat. There were spells in the game that City looked by far better than Liverpool. Yeah, of
Right,
course, we know Liverpool will create their chance and everything. By the way, there was that disallowed Van Dijk goal that could have changed the game entirely.
right, right,
And the
right. But it was
controversy
it was
about,
correctly ruled offside anyway because Robertson
but
was an offside position and
yeah,
he interfered with the goalkeeper's sight.
by the letter of the law, he
You
did.
know,
I still don't think the goalkeeper was
yeah.
going to reach it, but yeah, he was in an offside
Oh yeah,
position,
yeah. I mean, he wasn't going to
and
reach it, but the
yeah,
moment he stands in between the ball and the goalkeeper, then there's a
then
problem.
there's the
And
referee has got a decision to make, and he made that
yeah,
decision. But in the end, it's just the manner in which Liverpool lost. And again, I
yeah,
don't think many people realize that Pep Guardiola has changed a lot about his City team. He's embraced. Pep Guardiola's team has always been a unit. No one player is more
yeah.
important than the other. The team's
Right,
not playing for any player. But look, he's embraced the fact that this team is playing for Erling Haaland, because City are
right,
all of a sudden crossing the balls a
right.
lot more. They are
Yeah,
playing the ball
yeah.
quicker into the box and a lot more. Short crosses, low crosses, cutbacks, long balls
And
into the
even
far
Jeremy
post.
Doku's goal is a big example of that because
Yeah,
he never
absolutely.
used to give license to players
To
to be that creative and to be
Yeah,
shooting from far back like that.
yeah,
So it just
because
tells you that I mean, and again, the things he went through last season. To be fair, I
he
mean,
has
it
to change
rattled him a
something.
lot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it rattled him a lot.
And even
It
for
rattled him
a
a lot.
player like Ryan Shirky, who we know is a good dribbler,
Right.
loves to try things. I think he's been given the freedom to freely use his talent and what we know him to be doing. And so yeah, it's not a vintage Man City. It's not that City that's going to dominate every game, but they are starting to look like they can be effective in the new way they are playing. And it might have taken a while for the players to get on the same page as the manager, but it looks like now it's all coming together. Can they also build consistency to it? As for Liverpool, all their new signings, apart from maybe Ekitike, have struggled really to be effective, and so that
Right.
is also one thing that is hurting, Arne Slot's Liverpool. But yeah, the excuses are running
Yeah, the
out for
camera
them.
pan to Isak at a point, and of course, that's not a time to bring Isak in.
Yeah, yeah.
And the new signings are struggling to, leave their footprint in the team. And of course, you can understand with all the things that the team is going through, you cannot trust, new signings, especially those who are not fit like Isak.
Mm,
Jeremy Frimpong is not necessarily the fittest guy as well. Kekes has had his problems. Van Dijk has compounded those problems with all the mannerisms on the pitch. And so you can understand why Liverpool, are struggling this season. Hopefully, Ancelotti is able to pick himself up and pick his team up and repeat the success of last season. It's not going to come anyway. I don't think that success is repeatable, where they were able to dominate the entire league and win it as comfortably as they did. But at least mount a title charge
mm,
and put some pressure on Arsenal, see what they can do over there. For Pep Guardiola, yeah, we've all seen. I think we've noticed the change, but people should not forget that. And I don't know, Sicho, if you remember, Pep has not always been like that. And when I say like that, I mean he's not always restricted his players to not being overly creative. Let's remember, this is a man who graduated in the coaching system of La Masia. So he
yeah.
understands talent and he knows how to use talent. But what I think is that when he started coaching, he literally had creative harps like Xavi, like Iniesta, like Lionel Messi. He allowed them to play the ball, but he
Mm,
trusted them because he knew the quality. And then he went to Bayern Munich at the time when he needed to sort of pick the team up again after Jupp Heynckes. And they had lost Ribery and Robben, and it wasn't the same team all over again. And he now needed to sort of groom the technical ability out of certain players. I feel that sort of changed his mindset a bit, especially when he came to England and realized he was never going to have Iniesta and Messi again. So what do I do now? I cannot rely on individual brilliance. I must rely on a team cohesion and some sort of system that is whoever comes into the system will fit in. And I feel that's when it changed for him. But now maybe he's beginning to trust players like Haaland to get him the goals, Cherki, Doku to be the creative hubs, and maybe that is going to effectively unlock his genius again. But let's so that's with Manchester City. Nottingham Forest beat Leeds by 3-1. Crystal Palace drew 0-0 with Brighton. Brentford beat Newcastle by 3-1. And it's been a terrible run for Newcastle United after their abject defeat at West Ham the other week. Where Aston Villa also beat Bournemouth by 4-0.
Man,
Manchester
Semenyo missed the
City.
penalty.
Semenyo missed the penalty. I didn't know that. Semenyo missed the penalty.
He missed the pen, yeah.
Oh my god. I mean, his form has dipped for a while now. In my FPL, I rightly benched him, and I am happy to hear that he missed a penalty for all those who had him in their team. But anyway, Arsenal are top with 26 points. Man City are second with 22 points. Chelsea are third with 20 points. Sunderland are fourth with 19 points. Spurs have dropped to fifth with 18 points. And if Spurs continue this kind of form, they definitely will be sinking further. Thomas Frank will be worried of that. We'll take a quick breather, but before we do, there's another clue that I have for Sicho. This says that this player that we picked today reached the semi-finals of the Euro 2008, where he was named in the team of the tournament. Does it ring any bell?
He reached the semi-final.
He reached the semi-finals of Euro 2008,
Roman
where he was
Pavlyuchenko.
named. Roman Pavlyuchenko is correct. Oh, I didn't get to the last clue because I had only 4 clues for you. I love this. How did you guess this one right?
No, really, I mean, Euro 2008, one of the Spurs players that I can remember reached that semi-final was Pavlyuchenko with Russia. They were brilliant in that competition, Russia.
Yeah.
Pavlyuchenko, Ashav, then Zherkov. That was a magnificent team to watch. And at the time,
that was their golden generation. Yeah,
he was in Spurs. He was doing quite well. I'm just surprised he scored 42 goals. Wow, I didn't think he scored that many.
Because he was mostly coming from the bench, and he was that hero that the fans always kept calling for. But Harry Redknapp had other ideas. He didn't really fully trust him, and that's why eventually.
I guarantee if this clue was the first clue, he was my go-to man, because in 2008. The one Spurs player I can remember was in that semi-final was him. So yeah.
My last clue though is he never became a regular starter under the manager. Frustrated by a lack of opportunities, he left for home Russia in February 2012. So that should have definitely given it to you who it was. And I intentionally left that particular clue to the last one. But that's a very good first outing for Sicho on this weather shed game. And of course, it is our first.
And by the way, I was a big fan. I was a big fan of his. I love the way he played.
Oh, I like that. I loved him. I really loved him.
He's good looking. He dresses well as a footballer. Tall player. He picks the ball well. He's not.
He always made an impact from the bench. Anyway,
he's not Berbatov, but he's still very cool.
Right.
Berbatov is super cool.
Exactly.
Pavlyuchenko was cool. Yeah.
And you can understand why he never really got the a crack, because the players ahead of him were
Robbie Keane, Jermaine Defoe.
Robbie Keane, Jermaine Defoe at the time. Yeah. Berbatov was there, in initial stages.
Point,
and there was no way that he was going to get ahead of. And Jermaine Defoe, remember, is a Harry Redknapp person. Everywhere he went with him. So it was not. It was definitely not going to be possible. Anyway, we take a breather. I'll be right back.
This is the FC Pitchside Podcast, the first in an exciting lineup of podcasts by Footy Centre. Footy Centre is where you'd read your intriguing opinions and daily stories about football. From Europe's biggest leagues, the Champions League, international matches, and for Ghanaian fans, get closer to your favorite national teams.
Welcome back to FC Pitchside Podcast, and we'll be summing up the conversation very shortly. But before we do that, let's discuss La Liga because it's getting very interesting there. As we speak, Real Madrid have 31 points, and that is because they couldn't add to their impressive run of form in La Liga, dropping points against Rayo Vallecano, who sit 12. But Barcelona won their game this particular match day by beating Celta Vigo by 4-2. Let's discuss Barcelona first. Lewandowski, getting the 2 goals for Barcelona before, actually, he got a hat trick
Got a hat
for
trick, yeah.
Barcelona. And Lamine Yamal getting the other goal, but it was a back and forth game in the first half. Barca winning by 3-2 in the first half and then adding another one in the second half. Rashford got 2 assists in that particular game and he continues his fine form away from Manchester United at Barca. But Barca's high line has been a big problem and everybody seems to score against them. It's just how good your defense is against Barca that determines if you score the goal.
Yeah.
If you win the match.
If you win the
but
game.
it looks like scoring the goals will never be a problem for any team.
Now it was evident again in this fixture because if you look at that equalizer by Celta Vigo, as soon as Barca went, 1 up, then Rashford had a chance to make it 2-0. Goalkeeper makes a save, and right from that counter attack, there was a lovely interchange, in that midfield for Celta Vigo. The ball was played right in behind, and it was on the center line, right, and the ball was played right in behind that Barca back high line, and they couldn't recover it. So the ball goes in and Barca found wanting. It's been crazy how insistent Hans Flick has been on playing this high line because as soon as Carrera got in behind them, nobody could chase him. He scored, made it 1-1. Luckily for them, it was against Celta Vigo, who also didn't defend quite well. Barca, of course, have quality in attack, so they made them pay for it. But Barca conceding twice. Iglesias' goal wasn't going to be stopped. That was nothing to do about the high line. In fact, Barca were deep enough, but his strike was pure, was really, really good. Goalkeeper was never going to reach it, and he made it 2-2. But from that point, Barca just injected a bit more of their quality in the game, and Celta Vigo couldn't cope with it. Lewandowski gets the hat trick, Rashford providing 2 assists, and Lamine Yamal gets the goal as well.
But for Real Madrid, they could not score a goal against Rayo Vallecano in a game that ended 0-0. And for those who were wondering if they had their superstars, yes, they did. Mbappe, Vinicius Jr., Bellingham, Brahim Diaz, Camavinga, Adagula were all starters in this particular game. So it was not a game that had any shortage of quality. It was just Real Madrid not being able to carve open the defense of Rayo Vallecano, and what this means for them is that they still sit top of La Liga, but they would need to strengthen their grip over there because Barcelona are closely chasing them with just about 3 points separating them as it is right now. It's 31 points for Real Madrid and 28 points for Barcelona. Atletico Madrid sit fourth with 25 points. They've had a good, very, very good run of form, winning their last 4 games and drawing the 5th previous. So hopefully they're able to put that run up together as well and mount a good title challenge. But that will be it for the La Liga. For the Bundesliga, Sicho, and that's why we're going to be wrapping up the show. Bayern Munich is the biggest talking point in Germany, and so we'll look at them. They dropped points for the first time this season. They could not match the record for the longest winning streak at the start of any Bundesliga season. They were held to a 2-2 draw by Union Berlin in a game that was absolutely dramatic. Harry Kane getting the equalizer very late in that particular game. But of course, still a very good Bayern Munich side.
Yeah, still a very good Bayern Munich side. But I wonder if the entire second 45 minutes in Paris against PSG had a toll on the team because Bayern had to work extra hard. Luis Diaz was sent off on the cusp of first half time. And so in that second half, it was all PSG. Bayern had to run extra yards. They had to put in extra shifts to close down the space against PSG. You wonder if that threw them off a little bit. That made them come into this game against Union Berlin looking a little tired and not as fresh as we've seen them in this game. Because watching the performance, it wasn't the usual Bayern. Even though they were still looking like they wanted to dominate the game, it was Union Berlin who was still asking questions. Scored a goal that got disallowed. Eventually scored the goal. Bayern came into the game very strongly, but Again, Union Berlin got a goal, and Harry Kane, as always, proved to be quality for them in the end. So yeah, it's not a result that I don't think it's a result that they are necessarily going to kick themselves so hard about Bayern Munich. They've had a very good start to the season. I think they'll be hoping that that continues. One of the things that will also please Bayern and Vincent Company is that Leipzig lost. Because you remember, like RB Leipzig had a very poor start to the season, losing to Bayern by 6 goals at the start of the season on match day 1. But from that point on, they only had drawn one game and had won every other game in Bundesliga. So even though Bayern Munich were winning all the games in the Bundesliga, they were only 5 points ahead of RB Leipzig. But over the weekend, when Bayern Munich dropped points, RB Leipzig couldn't win. So they lost their second game of the season in Bundesliga this weekend as well. So they couldn't close in on Bayern, having seen Bayern drop points. So I think Bayern dropping points is bad, but they will be happy that the team that is competing with them also dropped all 3 points. And so that is what maybe they will pick the respite from. Go into the international break, come back a lot more refreshed, and kick it on again.
I like that. And so let's move on from there and get straight to the World Cup qualification for Nigeria and Cameroon. Nigeria play against Gabon and Cameroon play against DR Congo. These games are later this coming week. I think it's on Thursday. These games are on Thursday. What are you expecting in these games, Sijo?
Well, Eric Chele's Nigeria is playing differently for the team that was poor in the qualifiers. Cameroon have still got problems of their own. I think Nigeria will go through. It's Cameroon that I think that if they are not if they don't turn up their A game, they are going to have struggles really. For Nigeria, I've seen a different team from the team that struggled at the start of the campaign. But for Cameroon, I still think that the problem that they had from the start of the campaign still lingers on. So yeah, I think Nigeria will go through to the final playoffs in Africa. I wonder if Cameroon have just got enough to do the same.
Right. Just so you know, though, Nigeria in the last 5 games against Gabon have won 3 of them, Gabon winning just 1 of those. So it plays in favor of the Super Eagles very, very much. And I understand where you're coming from with, that particular assertion. But Sicho, I think it's been a good conversation.
Yeah, I've loved it.
In
really
today's,
good.
in today's
Ajo, you missed.
Yeah,
Ajo, you missed.
Ajo missed because Ajo missed. It was a very good, very, very good episode, and we'll come back with Wear the Shirt as well as the quiz.
I loved it. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you very much for joining us. If you did watch us on YouTube, if you did, listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, a big thank you to you there as well. Leave your comments, like, subscribe. Let us feel your support. For now, it's bye-bye.
Welcome to Footy Center Podcast Series. Welcome to Footy Center Podcast Series.